The whole world seemed like it peaked in 2016. 8 years since, a lot has changed, especially for the National Basketball Association. International superstars taking over the league. Exactly 96 months ago, if you were to predict who'd be the best player in the NBA by 2024, many of you would pick Anthony Davis. Even highly anticipated number 1 picks Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, and Ben Simmons were possibilities. Nobody would have guessed the sensational Nikola Jokic finished off his rookie season in discussions with Jahlil Okafor on who's the better young center, or the 15th pick of the 2013 draft from Greece and the Slovenian teenage prodigy 17-year-old Luka Doncic would be playing against the eventual MVP in a friendly exhibition. Almost a full decade since, 2 titles for Kevin Durant's Warriors added, followed by different champions each year, but the bad teams continue to feel heavy impacts on the terrible signings done after arguably witnessing the greatest NBA season of the 21st century. Everything just went downhill from that point forward, starting with the awful Detroit Pistons, an absolute embarrassment of a travesty. No playoff games won since the Chauncey Billups era. The past regretful signings from Ben Gordon, Charlie Villanueva, and Josh Smith still haunts the franchise today with a combination of draft failures. The lineup of Reggie Jackson, KCP, Tobias Harris, Marcus Morris, and Drummond, not a bad team on paper, just missing one superstar to truly contend. Swept by the eventual Cavs round 1 of competitive 4-game series, fans finally felt the team was heading towards the right direction. But the biggest mistake the franchise made, allowing coach Stan Van Gundy to also be the GM, deciding to sign borderline role player John Lure, 4-year $42 million deal. A guy who struggled with injuries, out the league by 2019, made little impact, to resigning all-star Andre Drummond, a 5-year $127 million max given his limited offense outside of dunking and rebounding. SVG trying to build around Drummond like he was Orlando Magic's Dwight Howard. That plan absolutely backfired. Big Penguin never improved his offensive game, held Detroit back, lacked leadership qualities, couldn't focus on the court. Detroit couldn't add any more solid pieces, signed Boban to a 3-year $21 million deal as a backup center, Ish Smith 3 years $18, leading to salary cap inflexibility, a period of mediocrity, and the struggling Stanley Johnson falling off a cliff, to selecting Luke Kennard instead of Donovan Mitchell. Team stuck in no man's land next 2 years. Instead of getting rid of Drummond's contract, team went all in, trading Tobias Harris and others for a past his prime, injury-prone Blake Griffin. A super risky low reward situation. Even with a healthy Blake, nobody viewed Detroit as serious threats. First full season of Blake and Drummond with a weak supporting cast literally sabotaged the team's future. A half a decade, a 500 record just for Blake to injure himself, getting badly swept to the Bucks. Team finally realized they needed a massive rebuild by 2020. The erratic Drummond traded for a bag of chips, overpaid for empty stats Jeremy Grant, to selecting draft bust Killian Hayes and Sekou, while desperately giving other lottery busts another chance like the Josh Jacksons, Don Makers, and Jahlil Okafors of the world. Later Kevin Knock, who's no longer with the team, Marvin Bagley, and James Wiseman. The Troy Weaver disaster, having too many young guys with no vet leadership, and missing out on top 4 picks each of the last 3 seasons. No Wemby, no Chet, no Paolo. The team will continue stinking for the near future. The Portland Trailblazers, eventually leading to the end of the Dame Lillard era, who made his name to the top 75 list, being extremely loyal and having a couple insane postseason game winners. After the departure of LaMarcus Aldridge, Nick Batum, and Wes Matthews, many believed the 2015-16 team would stink and struggle out west, but little did anyone expected the established Lillard with most improved player CJ McCollum became 2 of the most promising backcourt duels, 44 wins under Terry Stotts, with role players Al-Farouq Aminu, Alan Crabb, Maurice Harkless, and Mason Plumlee, all in their early to mid-20s, showed promising signs. Even knocked off the 4-seeded Clippers in a massive upset was mostly due to the injuries of CP3 and Griffin. Portland eventually lost to 73-win Golden State, but the second round appearance led to false hopes, creating long-term financial difficulties, signing mediocre role players paid way more than they deserved, especially for the disappointing number 2 pick Evan Turner, a jack of some trades, master of none, a 6'7" playmaker with versatility, didn't mesh with the roster, especially Portland already having 2 ball-dominant guards with his inability to stretch the floor complicated his fit. Being untradeable with his contract, ET became an absolute travesty the 2019 playoffs. At the time before his signing, Turner himself didn't even believe he was deserving of such a deal, called Andre Iguodala, and even Iggy didn't hesitate to tell him to take that deal, securing a lifetime bag. Even worse, one-year wonder Allen Crabbe, only with a couple hot shooting games, missed the classic 3 and no D. Portland forced to match Brooklyn's offer sheet, 4 years $75 million. Crabbe proceeded to play like crap, providing little to nothing. Franchise would have been much better off letting him walk away. Back in the league, out the NBA, immediately after his deal expired at age 27, Crabbe only played 4 playoff games after that contract. Myers Leonard, known for making more threes than grabbing rebounds as a 7-footer, nothing more than a limited backup stretch 5 with a nagging shoulder injury since college, most known for his random 30-point Game 4 2019 Conference Finals outbursts. Other than that, provided close to nothing. While heartless, a solid defender, never developed into a true 3-and-D, just a role player. His contract 4 years $40 wasn't too bad, but the atrocious Festus Ezeli, given 2 years $15 million, never played another NBA game again with knee problems after the disgusting 2016 Game 7 finals, another wasteful signing. Combined with Turner and Crabbe eating the cap space, drafting Zach Collins didn't help, 2 straight first-round exits to Golden State and New Orleans. Besides maxing Dame in 2015 and CJ signing 4 years $106, team had a fluke run to the 2019 Conference Finals. Lillard played his best basketball owning Westbrook, and McCollum sealing the deal on the inexperienced Nuggets before swept by the non-KD Warrior squad. Gave Neil O'Shea the idea they can contend. Early 2020 struggles led to the panic signings of Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, and Hassan Whiteside, not the right role players with a defensive liability of a backcourt, destroyed by the bubble Lakers, then lost to the no Murray Nuggets, trading away CJ 2022, team got way worse. With Dame missing many games each of his last 2 seasons in Rip City, led to the end of an era. The Blazers, now a young team with players trying to figure out their impacts, more struggling times ahead for Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups for the coming years. The Charlotte Hornets, after a competitive 7-game series loss to Miami, the 48-win squad looked like the franchise was finally turning things around. 8 years go by, Michael Jordan no longer the owner, no playoffs to show, only 1 winning season, filled with immature young players with personalities resembling the 2000's Jailblazers, only to be way worse in basketball. The most unserious franchise the last 8 years with misbehaved immature guys. Rich Cho signed Nick Batum to a whopping 5-year, $120 million deal after a strong season, but never close to being considered an all-star. Struggled the following 4 seasons, paid like a second option on a bad franchise when his fit most benefited a contender as a 5th option. Putting up role player numbers, so much for being a max guy, causing major burden, limited flexibility, also giving the average Marvin Williams 4 years $54.5 million, coming off a career year of 12-6, out the league after paid up. Williams became the most forgotten number 2 pick of this century. Ramon Sessions signed 2 years $12.5 million, did absolutely nothing. After a couple weeks of euphoria from March of 2016 up until late April, Charlotte fans enjoyed short-term basketball glory for a full decade of absolute misery. As Jeremy Lin and Courtney Lee went their separate ways to New York, 2017, the first season, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist's 4 years $52 million kicked in, becoming known for one of the biggest second-pick draft busts all time after posting the worst season in NBA history to failing to land Anthony Davis, instead settled for MKG, the most devastating result in team history. Kemba proceeded to put up empty stats, his most memorable Charlotte moment becoming the franchise all-time leading scorer, a pair of 36-win seasons, the true definition of no man's land, plus failing to develop their young guys viewed as busts in Malik Monk and PJ Washington. both made their impacts felt on way better playoff teams out west. A 39-win 2019 campaign, having Kemba waste his absolute prime years before his knees gave out. Franchise had no sense of direction, witnessing the Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham years, with an overpaid Gordon Hayward and injury-prone LaMelo Ball, continued ongoing disasters, too many misbehaved young players off the court, an absolute dumpster fire of an organization. Charlotte fans can only pray LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Miles Bridges can turn things around. The Washington Wizards, an absolute travesty of a franchise. Even talks of relocating to Virginia, the trash organization most known for overpaying everybody who suits up in uniform for a few years. Players getting guaranteed 9-figure bags thrown at them, resulting in constant years of misery. 0 50-win seasons since LeBron was -5 years old, with gossips of Kevin Durant potentially joining his hometown team only to strike out to Golden State, and also missing out on multiple-time All-Star big man Al Horford to Boston. Ernie Grunfeld couldn't help himself but spent on absolutely nothing. First, Bradley Beal's 5-year $128 million extension. His backcourt made John Wall, rising in the players' rankings, arguably top 10 guy in his prime. Team elected to surround Wall with backup Yamahimi, 4-year $64, a guy who never averaged more than 8.1 points a game, being limited offensively, shown no impact the 2017 postseason, sabotaged the franchise's chances of getting back to the conference finals. Not since the 70s. Of course, Mahimi out the league after 4 seasons, while Andrew Nicholson, 4 years 26, a player who many haven't thought of in years, a bad defender at 6'9", with no shooting, fell out the rotation, traded to Brooklyn, then out the league, and paid by Portland 7 more years later, packaging him with a pick that ended up being Jarrett Allen, set the Wizards back by half a decade. The Jason Smith 3-year $16 million signing, was that really necessary? Immediately out the NBA after his deal expired, these awful contracts ruined the short window for John Wall to compete at the highest level. But it wasn't just 2016. The Wizards having super poor decisions all these decades. Every offseason, they only get dumber, from maxing out Otto Porter, giving John Wall a super max extension, only to get injured, derailing his career, and forcing to build around Bradley Beal, 5 years $251, a no trade clause, the only thing more incompetent, having other teams taking on those ridiculous contracts. But no worries, the Wizards always find different ways to overpay for the wrong guys. Now stuck with the light-skinned meme bros, one of the worst run franchises in all of sports, the most irrelevant team in the NBA with no end in sight, just straight up pathetic. The Atlanta Hawks, after some brief success, making the improbable conference finals run with Trae Young, the franchise been super subpar since, having no true sense of direction, whether to tank or trying to compete, after experiencing its first 60-win season in 2015, regressing the year after, and letting Al Horford walk, ending their hopes of being competitive. The team decided to sign the immature Dwight Howard, a 3-year $70 million deal, rubbing Al Horford the wrong way. Both played the same position. Dwight became a clown for his hometown squad, lasted for only a year, being a terrible fit, brought in no versatility or leadership, most memorable for his post-game interview talking about the D.
Our D was good tonight, so we gotta make sure our D stay good, but it starts with the D, so we gotta make sure we keep playing defense.
And resigning the atrocious Ken Bazemore, 4-year $70 million, only to be remembered getting abused by prime James Harden.
Oh my! Somebody give Ken Bazemore a map!
Those signings hampered the franchise several years, team lost their identity, several coaching changes, before finally advancing until the 21 playoff run. Realistically, the Hawks haven't had an identity since they got rid of Al Horford. The Orlando Magic might finally put an end to its misery post-Dwight Howard era, with the rise of Paolo Banchero and the strong young core looking to gain more relevancy out east. The dark times and poor signings set the franchise back a couple more years, giving no offense Bismack Biyombo 4-year $72 after a one-hit wonder playoff performance versus the Cavs, plus having center Nikola Vucevic start made no sense, with the Serge Ibaka trade also made no sense. giving up on the promising Victor Oladipo and lottery pick would be future multiple-time All-Star Domantas Sabonis. Ibaka later traded to Toronto months later for empty stats Terrence Ross. Team heavily criticized for giving up too much young talent. Also signed Jeff Green, 1 year $15 million, wasn't needed. Orlando even tried building around Evan 5 years $85 million Fournier before realizing he's not the one. Followed by 2 straight 20-something win seasons, then 2 straight first-round exits led by DJ Augustine. The best decision the franchise finally made, realizing they needed to tank in 2021, landed number 1 pick, soon-to-be superstar Paolo. Optimism now on the horizon. At least the Lakers and Bucks won a title since, given the absolute travesty all-time embarrassing signings of Luol Deng and Timothy Mozgov for no damn reason. Jim Buss, disgusting. Super dark times for the proud historic franchise. And what the heck was John Hammond thinking about giving Miles Plumlee 4 years, Mizan Telenovich 3 years 30, and Matthew Dellavedova 4 years 38? Then God Giannis led the franchise to a title. The Knicks giving Joakim Noah 72 mil during the peak Phil Jackson era, forgotten thanks to the greatness of Jalen Brunson. The Dallas Mavericks still could have been on this list if they didn't land Luka, giving Dwight Powell a bag and Harrison Barnes 4 years $94 million of empty stats. Which of these teams do you believe will endure the longest lasting effects of the bad contract signings from summer 2016? Share your thoughts on the comments below. Stay tuned for more amazing content. See y'all next video.